Hey everyone, Dr. Michael Trayford here. Apologies, we were having some technical issues on the laptop Facebook Live event. So here we are now, just a few minutes later, talking about the power of crowdfunding for brain injury care. So to just kind of go over what I was just talking about, crowdfunding is an incredibly valuable platform for those who have suffered brain injury and allowing for care beyond what is what's classically involved with brain injury care to be performed over the course of long-term care. Now, care for those with severe brain injury can last a lifetime in many cases, but when 6 months or so is up, or a year even in many cases, people are left to their own devices trying to figure out what to do. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to patch in a very special guest, Kelly Whitaker, and she's going to join us, and we're just going to talk about some things that she's done, that we see in practice every day with folks that have been using crowdfunding as a tremendous resource, and hopefully help some people out in terms of getting set up on their path to helping their loved ones get better care. So I'm going to go ahead and here right now. Says she's adding. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
All right. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Getting past the technical issues. All
Yeah.
good now. So I appreciate you joining us. Just give a quick little introduction. We wanted to talk about the power of crowdfunding for brain injury care. And, clearly in your case with beautiful little Hadley, that's the unfortunate situation you're in, but you've found a world of people willing to help you through. And I think also too, it's beyond brain injury care. Clearly people are using these platforms for, cancer care, for addictions, for you name it. So it's really just a tremendous platform that people need to know more about. So I'd just like, if you're okay with it, if you can just give the viewers just a minute or two on your story and what brought you to the need for a platform like this.
Okay. So we have a daughter, Hadley. She is 5 years old. About a few weeks ago, she turned 5. Shortly after she, thanks. Shortly after she turned 3, she came down with croup, a normal, respiratory virus that she's had before. Took her to the hospital. She received a breathing treatment. They sent us home. The next night, she just didn't sound good. So we rushed her back to the hospital. But on the way to the hospital, she either had a febrile seizure or passed out. We're not real sure. She went into respiratory arrest and then cardiac arrest, and was without oxygen 15 to 20 minutes, give or take, and no heartbeat. So she suffered a global anoxic brain injury. So she basal ganglia was a big part of the brain that was damaged. So she went from being able to do pretty much anything to she's non-vocal. She can't walk. She can't do anything that she was doing before, except for within the past year. She's come a long way. So.
Right. Well, thank you. I know that's never easy for you to talk about, even though some time has passed, it's never easy. And I appreciate you sharing that. And, so many people are in the same boat. No two boats are identical, but clearly there's, a lot of similarities and so many people that just have great needs that simply don't have the resources to meet those needs. So I really felt a calling to talk with you about that because, I think you've done a really a fantastic job in being able to corral resources and get Hadley much needed therapy that, through your family's, investigation and your, just kind of tireless search for the best for her, which is really what this is all about. You all are just seeking the best care for her, be it stem cells or laser therapies, neurological rehabilitation, you name it. But, that's what it's about. And
Right.
As and as many learn when they get thrust into these scenarios beyond the kind of acute care, emergent care, there's not much going on because we have a broken healthcare system, and most progressive modalities, even if they are based in the sciences, rooted in the sciences and have evidence behind them, they're just often not covered. So that is really important for people to understand that maybe in these scenarios that you do need help if you just aren't, as most people are not financially independent and able to really just pay for whatever it is you need.
Right.
So with that, I have to say, it's always an absolute pleasure working with Hadley and you all because of that. The drive is tremendous, and the drive in doing what you're doing too to help raise funds for things you're going for, say, stem cells coming up in a few months. Talk about that. Talk about the platform. What brought you to it? How did you hear about it, and how did you get started?
So it was probably within a week of her being in the hospital. She spent about 6 weeks in the PICU at the beginning of the injury, and a friend of mine decided to start a GoFundMe for her, extra medical expenses. And it was great, and they raised tons of money. And at the time, you just think it's going to be for hospital bills or, just anything like that. We had no idea what was going to take place over the next 2 years. And I was really iffy about sharing the GoFundMe. I really didn't. I let all my friends and family share it. And then somebody else decided, let's sell some t-shirts. And so they sold t-shirts, and it was just amazing that, people are not going to help if they don't want to, but
Right.
people stepped up and they helped, and they raised us a lot of money that we had to travel for inpatient rehab because there's not one here in Memphis. So they just helped with a lot of that. And then once things start settling down and you come home from rehab and, everybody's life goes back to normal, except for ours is a new normal now. And you just start researching. I mean, doctors told us whatever she did within 6 months to a year was going to be it. And that's just how it is with brain injuries. And I guess for a while we believed it until finally we saw her MRI about a year, not a year later, and it was devastating. And I just decided right there and then in the hospital that I can't just take this. We've got to try whatever we can. So I started looking into things, and everything that we have found that works is not covered by insurance. It's, out of the box. Hyperbaric, coming to see you for functional neurology, which is a 7 to 9 hour drive. So I just decided, we've got to raise money somehow because we're going to do whatever it takes, but the financial burden should not be the reason why we can't help her and get her the best care. So, I mean, we had my son's school, they've done fundraisers, and people have asked, and there for a while we were just, well, we've been blessed so much, we hate for anybody to do anything, but now it's just to the point where everything is expensive and people want to help. And so, I created a new GoFundMe page just so that I could put it out there for all these different types of therapies and needs for her, on top of just supplements that could be outrageous, or, traveling to North Carolina. We've been there twice now to your office because we have seen so much help and so much progress in her. And recently we started selling Pura Vida bracelets, and it was huge. I put it out there, if we do this, is anybody willing? And we sold 75 within a few days. So I kind of got past the point of asking for help, and I just realized that people are either going to help or they're not. But when it's your daughter or somebody that you care about, you're going to do whatever it takes. And I just don't think it's fair that, I just didn't want the finances to be the reason why we couldn't do this. And we have family that helps and supports, but we also we don't want them to cover the whole burden either. So just decided, we'll put it out there. We'll keep doing fundraisers. Somebody's doing a different type of jewelry show for us next Thursday. And if people are willing to do it, we're going to accept it because she's reaching a lot of people, and she's also come so far. She's come farther with the out of the box type things that insurance doesn't cover. So we're just going to keep going as long as we can.
Awesome. And you touched on something before about when you first got going, there are some limiting beliefs, I guess, or even things that prevent people from doing these things. You run these
Hmm.
things through your head. Should I, shouldn't I? I might have more than this person, so why should I ask for things?
Right.
And those are things that you really, particularly in these types of cases, you need to get past very quickly,
Hmm.
or it won't happen. So, did you have any of those things that were kind of stopping you initially from doing it, or you just dove right in?
There for a while, I felt funny sharing the GoFundMe page, on our
Yeah.
page. I just wanted other people to share it, and, we were appreciative, but asking for money is just not something I was
Yeah.
ever comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I think a couple of people just told me, just share it, just ask, put it out there. If people don't want to donate, they're not. But it's your daughter, and people just need to realize that things are not cheap, and what's working for her. And I just feel like, every parent out there would be doing the same thing. And so I just kind of had to tell myself, we're just going to do it. And if we don't raise anything, it's fine. But at least I know that if people wanted to help, they can, because they want to do something. Um, and it's hard to know what to do. Of course, we want
Right.
people, to pray for her, but there's, so many things we want to do just to help her. And traveling's a big deal, because in Memphis, we just don't have a lot of these different things. We had to travel an hour and a half every day to do 60 hyperbaric dives until we bought our own chamber, which is expensive, but it saved her being in the car for that long. And we've come to see you twice, and we're going to Arizona for stem cells in January, and then Napa Center in California a couple weeks later. And these are all things that have been proven to help. So I just finally decided it's for her, and we're going to put it
Yeah.
out there and keep sharing.
Yeah. And that's one of the things we hear. We talk to a lot of people about these things, about helping get them set up on accounts, and there are often those barriers, and
Hmm.
usually it is people just don't want to ask, too proud, I guess. You might
Right.
put it in that category.
Hmm.
um, and again, these are things that people need to come to terms with real quick, because at the end of
Hmm.
the day, people do want to help.
Right.
Even if it's $5 or $10, it's not,
Hmm.
it's nothing for most people to contribute $5 or $10. And I'm sure most of your donations were probably of the smaller scale,
Right.
but that adds up. I mean,
Right.
it
It definitely
happens
adds
with,
up.
yeah, healthcare, elections, you name it. I mean,
Hmm.
small dollars add up to big dollars.
Right.
I've heard other issues too, just for people watching. Technologically, people don't consider themselves savvy. They think it might be difficult to do, but these websites are so intuitive and so easy to set up. It's
Hmm.
it wasn't a big challenge for you to do that, right?
Mm-mm. No, it's not. And even some people don't, they say they don't want to do GoFundMe because they do take a little percentage out. But, if you
Right.
have a PayPal, people have asked me, can I just send direct money directly to your PayPal or Venmo? And, I share it with them, and they share it with other people. And so, I've got a few people that just randomly will send me money on Venmo and just say, we love Hadley. Um,
That's, yeah.
so, but the GoFundMe was super easy. And Bonfire is another website that you can create t-shirts or hats or whatever, and they do all of it for you. You just have to set it up and provide the options, and you share it. And within, I think it's like a 15 to 30-day window, if you share it, if you sell at least one or two, they start printing them, and then it just keeps going. So if the 15 days is up and somebody orders another shirt, that campaign will open back up, and then they just send money to your PayPal. So it's super easy, and I don't think I realized how easy it was until you're in this position.
Yeah.
um, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you used Caring Bridge as well?
No. I'd started to. I usually update her Facebook page, but I have not. I haven't attempted the Caring Bridge site.
Yeah, and just for the people watching, GoFundMe is really the biggest out there. They've kind of taken over some of the smaller
Hmm.
companies from a pure donation standpoint. But Caring Bridge is actually reaching out to people in your community that might be able to provide car rides, or that might be able to mow your lawn or do whatever it is, which is just as good in many cases, because you would have to
Mm-hmm.
hire people to do things when you're away in
Right.
Arizona or North Carolina, wherever that is. So
Mm-hmm.
Caring Bridge is much more of a people contributing their physical abilities to things. So there's many outlets, Facebook as
Mm-hmm.
well, and we'll talk about that in a minute. How you can drive people to the GoFundMe. But I appreciate you talking about that, because the motivation to get going is what's important. I think
Mm-hmm.
as well, what prevents people from doing it or doing it effectively too is the creation of the account. It's really, it's at the end of the day, it's a story, right? And
Mm-hmm.
people resonate with stories, and they will contribute to things that they feel compelled to contribute to. I've been
Mm-hmm.
on enough boards and nonprofit organizations where we had to convey messages to people to make them feel like they wanted to contribute.
Right.
And the story is so important. Did you do that yourself? Did you have somebody write that for you? It must be difficult, doing that yourself.
Yeah, the first GoFundMe that was set up, my friend wrote it, and then this last one, I put together a story on there.
Okay.
And I've updated it a couple times if there's been milestones. I need to be better about doing that. I kind
Yeah.
of update Facebook and then, I kind of forget. But
Right.
um, but no, I mean it's definitely hard, but you just want to put things out there. And I found that when you're pushing towards a goal, like say stem cells, put the GoFundMe out there and put what it's for and the amount of money it's going to be. And I think that does help people kind of realize, oh yeah, that is a lot of money. That's not just, a few $100s. That's what they need to get to that.
Yeah.
And I think just putting it out there, the amounts and what you want to do. And I think that just helps tremendously as well.
Yeah, and I know we were talking about that, and that's something I wanted to get to. So that's perfect lead into that. That we are goal-driven creatures.
Hmm.
Dopamine. We want to check things off to-do lists. We want to complete things. We don't necessarily do that, but when people have open-ended campaigns, they often tend to, start out nice and strong, and then they
Right.
nosedive, and then they kind of fade into obscurity. But if you have separate
Hmm.
needs-based asks, that can be incredibly important. Hyperbaric chamber, $10,000.
Hmm.
People will help you reach those goals much quicker than an open-ended account. So I really
Right.
appreciate you sharing that. We've been talking to people more and more about exactly that, putting up the dollar value of what it is you're
Hmm.
looking to do. And wow, it's amazing how quick it can add up. So
Hmm.
thank you for sharing that. So talk about the, so you've created an account, you've got the story, you talked about updates. I think that's really important too.
Hmm.
People sharing pictures of what's going on, because people at the end of the day want to see that, they're in some small way helping the progress of your daughter or anybody else's
Hmm.
family member. So the updates I think are incredibly important, and clearly you can do that through social media outlets. But
Hmm.
in that vein, how do you drive people to the GoFundMe page? Is that through Facebook primarily?
Yeah, that's mainly what we've used. I have a Hope for Hadley Facebook page, and so it's on there as a topic that you can find. And like when we were getting ready, when we had started talking about the chamber, buying the hyperbaric chamber, I put it out there and put what it was for. But and then people just share it all over. And it,
Oh, I lost your audio there for a second. Can you hear me? I lost your audio. Oh, we'll go ahead and just wait for her to come back on. So yeah, outlets to share these pages, GoFundMe, Facebook, Instagram. People are using all kinds of resources to be able to get people to the GoFundMe pages, which is really important, because you could have the best GoFundMe page in the world, and if you don't have outlets out there to have people get to it, then it's likely not going to gain much support. So Facebook, Instagram, also too, just spreading it through church groups and neighborhood groups and things like that. Most organizations have groups on Facebook now, and if you get the appropriate approvals, you can go ahead and bring them on to help out. So let me go ahead and see if she's back here. We're just going to wait just another minute there. So the story as well is incredibly important. If you feel you might not be a great storyteller, then bring on the services of somebody who can. Anybody, a family member, even writers are not that expensive to hire to write a brief statement on something. But you want to have a really well thought out story and something that people are going to want to read and continue to follow. That's really important there. So we talked about setting goals, alternate methods of fundraising. So Kelly was talking about Bonfire, as well as getting into certain things like Pura Vida bracelet sales. There's lots of ways to do things like that. So you just simply, you Google fundraising methods, ways you can raise money, pie sales, whatever it is, do whatever you can to do that. But with things like GoFundMe, it does take some of the, the external efforts off of creating a fundraising event or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and just take a quick moment here, see if I can patch her back in. Okay. All right. Well, we seem to have lost her. Well, we want to thank you so much, Kelly, for coming on and talking about all this. Is there any questions? I'm going to just go through, see if there's any questions. If there are questions, please put them in the comments, and we'll go ahead and answer them in the section below the video, in the comments below the video. So please check back for the replay, and we can go ahead and get those questions answered for you. Oh, here we go. All right, we're just getting Kelly back on for another minute here. All right, hey there.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. You gotta love technology, right?
I know, I know. So yeah, I was just filling in some of the blanks there. We talked about the setting goals, and you touched on alternate methods of fundraising. So you talked about Bonfire, you talked about Pura Vida. I'm sure there's just endless amounts of companies out there that are selling things that you can get a percentage of by just, by getting shirts made. We got one of the Hope for Hadley t-shirts, and, people love things like that. They really do, especially they know it's going to a good cause. So, do you have any suggestions beyond the Pura Vida and Bonfire?
I don't know if you can see this. These little rubber bracelets, that was one of the first things somebody sold for us. Now, these are ones that we just give out, but another friend of mine that I met through this, her daughter suffered an injury, and I had some of these bracelets ordered to sell for her. And I mean, they sell for $5, but $5 adds up, and they're inexpensive to make. And there's tons of websites out there that will make these. And the Pura Vida bracelets are just these, but everybody, all ages, wears them. A friend was like, hey, they do this. Why don't you look into it? And then I've heard, Bluff City Soaps will do, I don't know if that's everywhere though, that they'll do fundraisers. I think his school has sold t-shirts. They do just a night where they would sell these bracelets for us. They would just set up a table and sell the bracelets. So, churches and schools and his football league, they've all just, and a lot of times you set up a table and they give you more than $5 for a bracelet. But I know that there are tons of websites and tons of things out there, but you do have to do your research. And some people just reach out to me and they say, hey, I sell this. I'm going to do a part of a commission and give that to you. I know somebody did a Scentsy fundraiser for us. Somebody's done a unique makeup fundraiser for us. And these are things that people will buy. Kendra Scott, the jewelry store, she's done 2 fundraisers for us where we received 20% of the sales. They have it set up for a night for 2 or 3 hours, and you're there. And so, I got to get out and go see people that I hadn't seen in a while, and they came in to shop, and super easy. But there are stores, there are websites that will help you. You just have to, sometimes you have to look and just get the story out there, and people will just reach out to you.
Awesome. And 2, with the bracelets and just even across the GoFundMe sites and Facebook page, you know, we don't necessarily want to look at it this way, but there is a certain aspect of branding that comes with this, and having a common message or a common title, Hope for Hadley, across
Right.
the Facebook page, the GoFundMe page, the shirts, the everything. It just creates an awareness, a cohesive awareness of your plight and you know, and what you all are going through as a family, and it really just brings the story that much more together, that people are wanting to know really at all times what's going on here, and wanting to
Right.
follow, and people are just in the corner rooting for Hadley and for you and for everybody, just because they know it, they know where it is. So I think that's
Right.
important to have that cohesive message, especially this day and age when there's so much noise on social media, on GoFundMe, wherever it is. So I think, you know, over time, for folks that need the long-term benefit of services like this, that or outlets like this, that they have that kind of cohesive, you know, that cohesive message, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for anybody to check, you know, just go to Hope for Hadley on Facebook, hashtag Hope for Hadley. Do your hashtags. I mean, that's going to bring it in. Hashtags are, you know, less and less relevance these days, but they're still being used, and you can use them across all platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. But I mean, I saw your her page last night, and you know, almost 2,500 people
Right.
on that page. I mean,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's really,
Yes.
it's amazing.
I mean, it's crazy. You can post an update and you've got hundreds of comments, you know, within an hour.
Right.
So, and that alone helps, just to know that, you know, we're over 2 years out, that she's not forgotten. People are still looking for these updates. They're still cheering her on. They're still praying for her.
Right.
So, you know, and that's another, I mean, you do. I got about a year out from the injury and I was like, you know, are people even still here? And they are. You know, we're 2 years out and they love her and they just want to see her progress and they want to help any way they can.
Right. And that's, as a, you know, super mom like yourself, that's got to be real comforting at times, just
Yeah.
to kind of sit down and read some of these messages of hope. And because, you know, everybody's in this, you know, Hadley's in this, you're in this, Travis, everybody's in this. And, you know, it's just good to know that you have that community there that's got your back. And that's really, really, really important, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's hard to carry it. You definitely need people helping and carrying it with you, because there's days that, you know, you just can't. So it's definitely good. And, you know, people are just send random messages to me, you know, hey, I had a dream about Hadley and, you know, she was walking, or I saw somebody today and they had a Hope for Hadley bracelet on, you know, and that's happened a few times. So just people are out there and they know her and they're just rooting for her. So it definitely helps.
It's hard not to root for her. She's amazing. You all are amazing. And
Thank you.
I thank you so much for taking your time to do this. Do you have any kind of last minute words of wisdom, advice, tips for anybody that's, you know, going through what you've been through from day one until now?
Just don't stop. Don't, you know, doctors know a lot, but they don't know everything. Now, Dr. Trayford, obviously, he knows a lot more. He's been very helpful, but, you know, just don't take the final word and just keep pushing. There's tons of things out there. My biggest thing was, you know, I don't want to just cover up the problem. I want to try to fix the problem. And so the things that we're doing now, she's made huge progress with. You know, ask for the money to help, tell them what it's for, and all they can do is say no. But you're never going to know if you don't ask.
Right, right. That's amazing. Thank you. And you know, to your point, we see so many families coming in like you do, and at the end of the day, you all know more than most of, from a treatment perspective, know more than most of the doctors out there giving you advice on treatment, or lack thereof. So, you know, I really, I commend you and so many of the other mothers and fathers and grandmothers, grandfathers that are just, you know, consistently and, you know, obsessively looking for, you know, bigger and better and newer things to help, because there's always something coming out. So, you know, you all just have a will and drive in you that is unstoppable. And, you know, that's what's going to help Hadley climb mountains. So,
yeah. And another thing is, it took me a while, but there's so many Facebook groups out there for any type of injury. I mean, you know, she had seizures, and so I'm on a group for there, and they talk about what's helped and what's not. And I think that's huge, because you actually hear from the moms that this worked or this didn't work, or you should try this. And I think that's just get your name out there and reach out, because all of us moms do want to help each other, because
Yeah.
nobody should have to go through this. So
Yeah.
just be open.
Yeah. Absolutely. I even saw, as we were getting ready to do the video, the announcement for the video was being shared in some of those groups.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a tribe. It's a community that's
Right.
inseparable. So you've got to get in there, and they're very proactive tribes as opposed
Yes.
to support groups where, you might not be learning so much, and it's more just,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, talking through things rather than, springing into action. Well,
Right.
I thank you. I don't want to take any more of your time, but give Hadley a big hug from me,
I
and
will.
thank you so much for taking your time. I just want to let
Yes.
everybody too know, if you want to see a really great example of how to do this, just go to the Facebook page, Hope for Hadley, hashtag Hope for Hadley, and also to the new GoFundMe, just hashtag Hope for Hadley, search it on GoFundMe,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see. I mean, when you're seeing, hundreds of shares, hundreds of donors, and I'm sure many of these people you don't even know,
Right.
it's pretty inspiring, and it'll make you
Mm-hmm.
do something. And in honor of your time here helping so many out, we're going to go ahead to that site in a minute and make a donation for Hadley
Oh,
as
well,
well. So
thank you. Thank you
thank you
so very
so much.
much.
We appreciate you, and
Yes.
yeah, just keep plugging away. You guys are
Mm-hmm.
doing awesome things,
Thank
and
you.
look forward to talking soon.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, take
Thanks.
care.
Bye.
Bye.